4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to the Recovery Clinic. If you have not already hit that like button and followed the page, do so now. My name is Jimmy McGill. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and this is Chris Dickie.
What does that mean? Long-term recovery.
That you're Chris Dickie, or
no?
Oh, okay. What that means is I haven't had a drink or a drug of any kind inside my body in almost 6 years.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. How long has it been for you, Chris?
I just celebrated 13 years last week.
Didn't see the picture of Chris, his daughter, who has never had to see Chris in addiction or alcoholism, actually painted him 13 years sober picture with crayons. And it is amazing. You definitely want to go check it out. You can scroll down through the post. Listen, we've got an amazing show today with a special guest, and after the guest, we've got some amazing information. We're going to talk about triggers, because I I was drugged down through there this morning.
So we want to talk about that.
Yeah, we do, definitely. Chris,
well,
what's
we
up,
appreciate all of you joining us today. We, like Jimmy said, we have a very special guest. The Attorney General Leslie Rutledge of Arkansas is with us in the studio this morning. She was gracious enough to join with us from Zoom. She's on the road in Prescott. Hi, Attorney General.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on, and glad to be on via Zoom. I always prefer to be in person, but we know in today's world of everyone being busy and with COVID that we're just figuring all the technology out, and I'm just excited to be on with you, Chris and Jimmy, and just love hearing you all stories of inspiration, recovery, and accomplishment.
Well, we appreciate the work you're doing, and one of the things that you have coming up next week is the Prescription Drug Summit. Will you tell our viewers a little bit about the history of that? And it's a little different this year due to what you just mentioned with COVID and the different world we live in these days.
Well, so many of our trainings now from the Attorney General's office, as well as any trainings that you attend, are online or virtual. This has made all of us step up our technology game. But for several years, the Attorney General's office has hosted what we call the Prescription Drug Summit. And as part of it, we normally have anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 people attend in person. This year, we're hoping to have that number plus some, because we are offering it virtually. Mm-hmm. And this is an opportunity for law enforcement, pharmacists, clinicians, family members, those who are in recovery. This is for everyone. And so this is not simply for those who provide treatment or provide education or provide enforcement. This is for everyone across the board to attend and learn from one another, to share their stories, and to hear from experts. We do have several breakouts, even though we are virtual, so that way those who are most interested in the enforcement, for example, can hear directly from experts in that area, those who are working on the recovery side or education side. So all of this, and we encourage you all, if you're interested or want to learn more about it, to go to arkansasag.gov. That's arkansasag.gov, or you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it, we're on it. And we would love to have you all go ahead and sign up, if you haven't already, to participate in this year's Prescription Drug Summit.
How many people do we have signed up already? Do we know right off the top?
Off the top of my head, I believe that we have several hundred.
It's a lot.
We're pushing. I'm looking at my notes briefly, but I believe that we have several hundred already signed up. Again, in years past, I know that we've had again between 1,000 and 1,200, but we're hoping to have that many plus some, because again, space is unlimited because we're online, and the more people that we can reach through these educational opportunities and help them help others, the more people we can in fact help, as we all work together to address the prescription drug abuse problem in the state of Arkansas.
Yeah, I think we're still getting used to it. Jimmy and I are grateful for you allowing us to come in and inviting us to share about the Recovery Clinic in one of the breakout sessions that is recovery. But I do have to say, you know, having heard you speak in person, you know, it is a little different. Jimmy and I have done some virtual keynotes as well, and it's, you know, when you're talking to a camera, it's hard to, when you have a joke, it's hard to play off the crowd. and
Laughing
it's
at
just
your
you're
own
just
jokes.
laughing at your own joke most of the time.
Yeah.
But you have a way with words and very articulate and when you're talking. So we encourage you to all of our viewers to visit the AG's website to join the Prescription Drug Summit. Like the AG just said, you don't have to, you don't have to have a license or a certificate to enter, and there's no payment. So please come and learn, because we're still, while we do have this the pandemic caused by the coronavirus, there is an underlying opioid crisis, an addiction crisis right underneath that. It hasn't went anywhere, and it's actually been amplified.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris, I'm so glad that you brought that up because, yes, first of all, this training, the Prescription Drug Abuse Summit, is absolutely free. You don't need any sort of license or certificate, as you aptly noted. All you need is a heart and a head. And so if you have the heart and the head to help others, whether it's a family member or total strangers, then please sign up for this virtual free online training Prescription Drug Summit.
Yeah.
But then you talked about how the pandemic has exacerbated other problems, and predominantly the problem of prescription drug abuse in our state and across the country. As so many people are fearful of the coronavirus, of COVID-19, but they're also perhaps being shut in because they've lost their job, or because now they find themselves at home with young children or taking care of loved ones, whatever it may be, that we have a number of individuals who are turning back to those addictions or turning to begin an addiction because, again, they are suffering from insecurity, they're suffering from mental illness, and this coronavirus and COVID-19 has only made this problem worse. And that's why it's extremely important that we, as leaders across the state, and leaders don't need letters before their names or after their names to be a leader. Everybody can be a leader, but that's why it's going to take all of us raising awareness and working together to address this. I know, and it's probably in April or May, we launched a public service announcement that had to do with opioid addiction and prescription drug use, and we put this on across the state on television as well as on radio to make sure that people knew that there were resources available. And while we may not have the rehabilitation resources that you guys do, but we do know how to get a hold of you, and we know how to direct people to folks who can get them the help that they need. So this is all of us working together in addressing these problems in the midst of a pandemic.
Absolutely. There's power in numbers.
Yeah, that was the reason that Chris and I started the recovery clinic, Ms. Rutledge, was so with people in recovery, and that's a substantial amount of people in Arkansas. Like, we've got thousands and thousands of Arkansans who are in long-term recovery, and so they're not just affected by the threat of COVID, they're affected by the threat of COVID plus the impact that COVID has devastatingly put pressure on the recovery community. Like the naloxone rates, they tripled within the first month of the pandemic when the numbers really started hitting here, which was a big indicator to Chris and I that the overdoses obviously had tripled too. And we're only counting those overdoses that were saved, because that's how we track the naloxone. But then you start looking at the hospitalization rates for the crisis stabilization units and treatment centers not taking new admissions because COVID threat. And so we're having to fight COVID plus addiction, and both are trying to kill us.
There's a big access issue that we're overcoming.
Huge.
And so that, we say don't let social isolation be confused with
Social distancing.
Social distancing.
Yeah, it's good.
Absolutely. And with our places of worship and other areas that are most welcoming, where people get the sort of spiritual and emotional help that perhaps they're not receiving at home or in their other relationships with those being shut down or limited access, or people being concerned about speaking to strangers or giving that much needed hug. This is, again, this is all of us as a community learning how to adapt and making sure that we are proactively reaching out to individuals who may be in recovery or who may not have spoken out yet about their addiction, but that, we have an inkling. I mean, you guys have probably known and had so many friends or someone when you started down your road of recovery said, I knew something was going on with Jimmy, or I knew something was going on with Chris.
Right.
And it took those friends and family stepping up and visiting with you about it. And that's what it takes right now, is whether it's on social media and you see someone, maybe they would post all the time and then they go radio silent, or maybe they would send text messages, whatever it is, if there's an odd pattern, that's something to where reach out to these guys and see what we can do to help.
Yeah, I'm so glad you just mentioned those things, looking for, warning signs. Jimmy and I, with we pour into people like you. We're out there. We're always, doing something for others and being of service. And so we're constantly pouring into others. And so Jimmy and I actually went through a little blue time period, and I'm so glad that you were talking about the much needed hug, because let me tell you, behind the scenes, I got to say, I'm hugging on Jimmy a little bit.
Yeah.
He's hugging on me.
He likes a hug on me, Miss
But those
AG.
are so
Well,
needed.
you're a great hugger, Jimmy.
I am.
Great hugger.
I learned that in recovery. A hug is better than a drug.
There you go. So, AG, walk us through some of the higher level things that we're dealing with, outside of the daily trench work that Jimmy and I are involved in a lot of times. Talk to us about some of these lawsuits that you're working on, and whatever you can share with our viewers and us about what you foresee happening in the state of Arkansas as far as more access to recovery, prevention, and treatment.
With regard to the lawsuits, this is something that we filed suits against manufacturers of opioids as well as distributors of opioids in the last 18 months to 2 years. Not only has the state of Arkansas filed suit against these companies, but so have all of the cities and counties in the state, because this is impacting every single one of us, not just in terms of lives lost, which we can never put a dollar amount on, but also in terms of not having the resources available to address the needs of Arkansans. And we are hopeful that as we are progressing in both of these lawsuits, that we will in fact be able to get to an agreement with these companies where they accept responsibility.
Yeah.
When Arkansas is the number 2 in prescribing rates of the country, we have 117 prescriptions per person in the state of Arkansas. Let me say that again. We have 117 prescriptions per person in the state of Arkansas. That means for every man, woman, and child. That's not for everyone who actually has a prescription. That means for every one of our 3 million Arkansans, there are 117 prescriptions of opioids. And that is an astronomical prescribing rate. And so why we have sued the distributors is because distributors have a legal responsibility. If they see something out of sorts, such as a very high prescribing rate, they are supposed to stop it. And the drug manufacturers, the reason why we sued the opioid manufacturers is because of the deceptive trade practices. They were going out, these drug manufacturers were going out, giving educational, informational speeches and presentations to the medical community, talking about how wonderful these drugs are and how well they work. However, they failed to talk about the addictive nature of these drugs and how debilitating these drugs can be if an individual is not able to take the dose that is prescribed by the doctor and to set it aside and leave it be.
So it wasn't addictive, right?
Yes, that it is addictive. And I mean, as you all well know from the individuals who have come into need of the services and the rehabilitation. And these companies we must force these companies to accept the responsibility that they knew it was addictive at the time that they were talking to doctors and having doctors prescribe these. Yes, also we work with the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, as they investigate doctors who are essentially running pill mills. These are doctors with, when they open up in the mornings, they've got a line wrapped around the clinic. And the reason why they have a line wrapped around the clinic is because individuals with addictions in that area know that that doctor will prescribe them the opioids or the high power pain medicines that they want and that their body needs to feed the addiction. We also work very closely with local law enforcement on prescription drug take back. This is something we encourage all families to participate in on a daily basis, not just twice a year, because think about how many people have medications sitting in their homes. And when you think about if you were able to get together with your family over Thanksgiving, or if you're anticipating getting together with them over the Christmas holidays, think about when you go to your grandma's house or an aunt or uncle or your parents, and it just seems like they have them all lined up on their kitchen counter. They don't even have the old school medicine cabinets anymore.
No, I'll tell you what, when I would go to anybody's house, they must have thought I had a really, really small bladder, because the first thing I was asking is, where's the restroom?
Yeah.
So I could go look.
Pilfer through your med cabinet.
Sure, and to see what medicines they have.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, that's not uncommon for individuals battling addictions. It's not uncommon for thieves to know that they can break into someone's home or to take them and then to turn around and steal them. We also see this if a cancer patient has lost his or her battle with cancer, and then when the funeral is listed, those with addictions, or again, a thief will break into that home knowing there might be medicines inside that home that they could either use themselves or steal and sell on the black market. So please clean out your medicine cabinets. All that long story to say, please clean out your medicine cabinets. Many of our pharmacies are now taking them back. They have the drop boxes at the pharmacy, which is wonderful. But you can go to artakeback.org. That's AR, which is the abbreviation for the state of Arkansas. So artakeback.org, and find the closest take back site to you. And so just clean them out, put them in a sack. They don't look at the name, they don't look at the prescription. All they're looking to do is to destroy that medicine properly and not taint our water system by flushing it down the toilet or putting it in the trash.
Absolutely, and Arkansas Drug Take Back Day has a lot of buy-in from the community. I mean, we're talking tons and tons and tons of old prescriptions get to be destroyed in a proper manner.
Yeah, it does. You know what? We've got the addiction side of Arkansas. It's like you just said, Ms. Rutledge. We've got this overwhelming prescription rate, right? Like, it's astronomical. We're number 2 in the nation, only short of Alabama, which makes me happy for Alabama, because we're not quite the worst right then. And no offense to anyone, but we've got these astronomical success rates with long-term recovery, right? Like, you've got all these different stuff surrounding recovery. I've heard of people referring to Little Rock as the 12-step capital, as the recovery center of the nation. And we are leading a lot of recovery efforts, like peer support. But we've got areas that we really are lacking, and I don't understand how we can keep maintaining our leadership as a national spotlight or focal point for other states to follow when we still have areas that we lack in, like recovery not being Medicaid billable. You've got recovery housing. We still don't have a structure for that. And so I know that you're getting ready to run, right? And so
she is running.
You are, you are running. And so we've got tens of thousands of people in Arkansas, right, Ms. Rutledge, that are in long-term recovery, that are voting productive members of Arkansas. What can they expect out of you were they to mobilize and get behind you for recovery? What do you intend to do for people in recovery?
So yes, I did launch my campaign to be the next governor of Arkansas a few months back, and part of the vision that I have for the state of Arkansas is to ensure that we do have a healthy Arkansas, and that we do ensure that families or those with addictions, but particularly family members, are able to find a affordable option for those looking to get treatment. One of the biggest concerns that I hear from family members is, quite frankly, Leslie, there are no options. We don't know where to take our son, or my daughter's finally ready to go and get the treatment, but you can't go for 10, 15, 30 days. It's the long-term treatment facilities that are the most successful in saving lives. And we do need to look at the Medicaid overhaul, what it covers and what it doesn't cover in terms of using taxpayer money to offset some of these costs. And again, this is taxpayer money that will save taxpayer money in the long run. And so this isn't a taxpayer money that you're just giving away. This is money that if we could use and invest it in that individual for 6 months or 12 months to get them back to being the person that God intended them to being that successful member of our community, to being that parent that loves that child and keeps that child out of foster care and puts them back in that home with a parent with a job, that is money well spent.
Yeah, absolutely. And from personal experience, recovery housing was the focal, I mean, it was the most key element for me to find and sustain recovery. But I've had some resources offered to me that a lot of people don't have, and so did Chris. And so would recovery housing and building that infrastructure possibly be in the future of your candidacy for you to win?
Well, I think it's certainly something that we need to consider and look at, and to perhaps, as I like to say, that, you know, it may be that the state of Arkansas, we need to reallocate resources and see where we are spending money that is not working, and to put it into programs that are working.
Absolutely. Well, you have a couple advisors right here that are willing
we're
to
good
help.
at this part.
Well, I love it. I love it. You know, one thing that I understand is that I am not an expert on everything, and that it's important to surround yourself with experts. And you guys are certainly the experts in this area and in living, recovering, and being successful, and how to help others. So I will definitely be asking lots of questions.
We appreciate your openness and willingness to have those important discussions. One thing we'll end with, and then give you the last word, just to, you know, say anything that is on your mind or heart. Following up with what we were just talking about, we appreciate. I'm going to take my recovery clinic hat off and put my Natural State Recovery Center's hat on for a second, because we back in March 12th, if you remember, we had our groundbreaking, and we were grateful for your attendance. One of the main reasons we are investing in the programming and the curriculum that we see that works, not only because it restores Arkansans to their well-being in their position in society and family, but the other reason is millions of dollars are being spent in Arkansas from out of state trying to take Arkansans.
They are trying. They're taking them.
While we've been on the show this morning, probably 2 or 3 people have jumped on a plane to go somewhere out of state. So
to get treatment. Why
we are investing here is because we want to provide an option and end those phone calls and conversations that you have, Attorney General, where you're hearing we don't have a place to send, and then your answer is, I know, we need to do something. We hopefully are leading the way to have more programming available for people, so they don't have to leave. And so we are grateful for that support.
Yeah.
Because we'll have the full continuity of care. We treat people from the crisis of to sustainability, and that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And it does take everybody. There's power in numbers. So from the ground up, from our recovery center, from Jimmy's work in peer recovery, from your work as Attorney General and those lawsuits, and moving forward, and should you get the governorship, there's a lot of work to do. But the good news is, we have the team. We have the people, the players,
and they're
ready to compete.
Hungry to do it. Yeah.
And while it's important to take individuals away from those, you know, who they're surrounding themselves with that are dangerous and bad influences, it's also important to keep those with addictions close by to family and their support system. So that way, you know, mama or sister or spouse or brother can come see them, you know, when the time is right during that process and during the stage of recovery. So sending someone to Georgia or to Tennessee out of state may help them in that short term, 3 to 6 months, but learning how to live back in the community with your family and friends, and going back to being that member of society that God intended you to be, is what we want. And having your support system close by, able to drive 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours is much easier than jumping on a plane. So
Yes,
we love what
100%.
you're doing at Natural State Recovery.
100% on that. And in the dust of the ring is where we need to survive, and that's in our respective communities.
You know, hang on before you give her.
Okay.
AJ, I was sitting here reading through some of the comments, and you know, we've had several hundred viewers live, and so you're actually winning over the hearts of a lot of recovering people at this time.
Yeah, if you have time, go back and look at those.
Yeah,
you got a lot of support in here.
It's important that
I appreciate that
people realize how loud the voting force of recovery is. 30,000, 40,000 Arkansans who are voting, and they're in recovery. That's not counting their family members, right? When they mobilize and they're looking for leadership like Governor Hutchinson, who has just opened the door for us to be the example, right? We've changed state laws around recovery. The state hired me, which was...
Hey, the first one through the door is always the bloodiest.
Yeah, so I took the blows for everybody, or the governor did.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's a loud voice. That makes recovery the loudest movement, even more so than the LGBTQI community. And I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, AG, we so appreciate you coming on our show today. Is there any final thoughts or words that you'd like to share with us and our viewers?
Well, first, thank you, Chris and Jimmy, for inviting me to sit down with you guys for a few minutes, and thank you to everyone for tuning in and listening. Again, we are all in this together. Whether you have personally experienced addiction or you have a loved one, every single one of us has someone in our lives that has overcome or lost the battle with addiction. And we must all work together to share those stories. And so I applaud those of you all who are in recovery and you're sharing your stories of strength, but also applaud those who have shared their stories of grief, because none of us can imagine what you're going through until you tell us. And so sharing that story and telling us will help us to educate others across the state to ensure that we're putting the resources that we need to help you and to prevent other families from going through that same grief. So I just want to say thank you. I want you all watching to contact me at the Attorney General's office at any time. And like I said, we're on all forms of social media. So please come find Leslie Rutledge, Attorney General, or Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge on any forms of social media. Shoot us a message. Please sign up for the Prescription Drug Summit. We have over 800 that have already signed up, and we hope to have many, many hundreds more. So if you haven't done so, go to arkansasag.gov and sign up today, so that way you can share your story and hear from Chris and Jimmy. So if you haven't had enough of them, please sign up so you can be part of that breakout session, because it's going to be a phenomenal training, just as it is every year. God bless each and every one of you. God bless the state of Arkansas. And as always, friends, God bless our United States of America. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your travel.
Thank
Be
you,
safe.
guys.
Bye.
Well, that was a good guest.
Definitely. So one of the things when she's talking about, you know, the hearing us coming up.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to watching it because I
Yeah.
forgot what we said.
Oh yeah, we pre-recorded
We
the show,
pre-recorded it.
and we cut up. Like
No, it's
we
fun.
were authentically Chris and Jimmy. So that's a scary thought
I've
that they're going to
totally
play us in front of
forgotten.
800 professionals,
I'm
and we're
kinda
throwing
scared.
paper balls at Ricky. You know, Ricky's the guy you never see that we love, and we're always like, "Hey, Ricky!"
Yeah, we love talking about Ricky on here because
Yeah. Hey, have you seen his son?
beast
Bro.
mode.
Arkansas Razorback. Look at him, Williams.
Yeah. Hey, so real quick, the Attorney General mentioned something that's critical.
She said, reach out to her. Y'all need to be blowing her up with emails.
Well, no, but she also said, pay attention. Look at your family, look at the people you love, look at the people you're close to. If you see anything off, right now is the time to intervene and just ask an important question, what's going on?
Yeah.
And sit someone down. It's very busy right now, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear going around. So please take the time to stop and intervene on someone that you see that might be a little different, a little off.
I'm a little
And
different.
Speaking of that, because why we do that, why we pay attention is because, a story that happened to Jimmy this morning.
Oh yeah, you want me to tell a story?
Yeah, let's get into it.
So if you guys follow me on Facebook on my public platform, I made this post this morning. Like I literally triggered myself this morning, and it just tells you that addiction doesn't really care how long you've been clean. It doesn't care about your sobriety time. Like y'all better quit playing with it and get ready for that sucker punch, because that's what it did to me this morning.
It's patient.
Yeah, it's a creeper. Addiction's just lurking in a little bush like this, like getting ready to jump out on me.
Exactly.
That's what it did. I was scraping my wife's windshield. I was being a good husband for those of you watching who don't know how to do that. And it was freezing. I'm outside in my
This
sock.
isn't because he's trying to make amends either. This is out of the goodness of his own heart. He's going out there to
it's
scrape.
true. My wife.
He's not trying to get anything. There's no
was,
expectations attached to this.
None. No, she was going to work, and I went out there and started her van for her and started scraping the ice off of the windshield. And so I got this ice scraper, and I'm scraping, and all of a sudden these rails of ice are coming together, and it's like, instead of an ice scraper, it's almost like it was a razor blade, and instead of ice, it was drugs. So I instantly got took to this mental place in time.
Those are huge lines.
Huge lines, and like, but it was, the fact is like, all of a sudden my stomach turned, and my heart rate started thumping, like I had triggered myself. And so I immediately went inside and told my wife, who's in long-term recovery, who instantly laughed at me and was like, it'll be okay. You know, I prayed it out, and you know, I'm just grateful that I've got tools today that I knew how to play that tape through, because I was like, man, it's cold out here, but if I went and got me a line, it's going to be even colder. Like addiction's way more cold than that Jack
That's an
Frost.
atomic bomb.
Yeah, yeah. And
So, yeah, I mean, I think share with what he just talked about, for those of you in recovery who have experienced certain things like that, please share in the comments. We'd love to hear what you have overcome and went through. So when I first moved to the Little Rock area, I was staying at some lofts that I had just gotten this new job, and they paid for this little apartment, or this little flat is what they called it, for a couple of months while Tara finished up a job in Batesville. So I was here in Little Rock alone, and one day I was doing some college work. It was on a Sunday, right?
All right.
And I went outside just to get a break. I left my phone inside. I was in my shorts, no shoes, and shut the door, and it locked. I was locked out on a Sunday. No way to get in. And luckily, there was people upstairs that were outside, and I was like, hey, got their attention, and they were able to help me call a key locksmith. Anyway, so I'm upstairs in their apartment, on their deck, outside on the phone with the locksmith and setting up that appointment. I turn around, Jimmy. There's a glass of wine in my face.
Just like that.
In my face. They had already poured it and said, hey, while you're waiting for the locksmith, here.
Yeah.
And, you know, some of the recovery literature that we can read says we recoil from those types of situations like a hot flame.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of we talk about insurance, putting insurance into our recovery. We act accordingly, putting up insurance for moments like this. Because like you said, hey! And I'm like, no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've already poured it.
Yeah.
So I said no, and they said, no, I already poured it. And again, it came at me.
Yeah.
So here I am, starting a new position. I'm alone in Little Rock. It's a perfect equation for addiction to strike.
Yeah.
And so those types of situations must come from my connection, for me, I'm saying this personally, from God.
Yeah.
Because God really just pulls me out of that head-on collision and says, I'm protecting you.
Yeah.
Get your behind out of there. Yeah. So I went down and it was okay. But those types of things, this is why I continue to practice these principles.
Yeah.
Recovery for me is an escalator that's going down, I'm walking up. If I stop, I'm going to automatically go backwards.
Yeah, you're either recovering or working on a return to use.
Yeah.
What was your first time ever being triggered? Do you remember?
Yeah, I
I
had.
do too. I remember my first two. What
In
was
this,
yours?
so this one, I always equate to the movie Finding Nemo on this one.
Okay.
I'm sitting in an apartment in Batesville, Arkansas. It's on a Sunday, go figure. Beautiful day outside. I'm doing laundry. Well, I turn around and the manager of the apartments has a big gulp cup with no lid. And I thought, that's weird. And he comes in and says, hey, try this. And he puts it in my face and I get a big whiff of whiskey, right away. And so why I say Finding Nemo is because you remember the shark where he's not they're choosing not to eat fish.
Yeah.
Fish are friends. Well, and then that blood wisps through the water and it gets into Bruce's nose and he goes, bam! This is why I believe addiction centers in our mind. I got that whiff, the fumes of that whiskey, and I went off. I was triggered. I was calling people left and right
Smells.
saying, hey.
Yeah.
But it was like, that triggered a craving that was pretty intense.
Right.
Like, and here I am, not doing anything wrong. I'm just out here doing what normal, productive people do, right?
Yeah.
And so, again, I was protected, I believe, because I had enough insurance. It's hard to fall off the middle. It's hard to fall off the edge when you're in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're in the center of the herd.
Yeah.
Can't get
like
picked
you.
up.
What's the first thing you did?
Got involved.
You ran inside and told.
Yeah.
You didn't keep
Yeah.
that a secret.
Well, the first time I ever got triggered, I was living in Williamsburg at my Kim Free house. And, you can't have your dog there. And my pit bull was staying with somebody in Jacksonville. I'd just been recently released from prison. And I had, 3 or 4 months of recovery time. And so I'm going to run this dog food out to Jacksonville, 7 in the morning. Like, literally, at 7 in the morning. Sunshine was up. The air felt good. That springtime air. It's just different in Little Rock with that spring air,
Honeysuckles.
And so another guy is taking me from Kim Free, and his name was Tim. And so we started listening to Lil Boosie at 7 in the morning, driving across the river bridge.
What's Lil Boosie?
It's a rapper. And so
I know, but what's the song?
I don't remember what song it was.
Doesn't he have just one?
No, he has bukus. What's wrong with dude? Trying to throw my story off. So
I'm trying to get.
Hey, listen.
Bring the song inside.
Quit it. Let me tell my story, Chris. What is wrong with you?
I love detail.
Dude loves attention, man.
Boosie.
Somebody bring Lil Chrissy. That's who I was listening to. Lil Chrissy.
You need that speaker tape.
We're riding across the bridge, and all of a sudden, I want to go get high. And what it did was early morning. That if you're watching early morning, 7 to 4 p.m., that's when you're in jeopardy of your stuff being stolen. If you look at police reports and data, the majority of property crimes, theft-wise, burglaries, that happens during school hours.
Work hours.
Work hours, right. And so I would always get up and go do what I had to do to get my drugs early in the morning. And so it just reminded me of that. It transported me all the way back to time when I'd be up early, riding around the city, looking for a lick. That's the only time I was listening to rap at 7 in the morning going across that bridge.
Yeah. What'd you do?
I immediately called my sponsor, who at that time was a different sponsor than I have, but we talked it out, and he told me I was experiencing familiar feelings that I had only experienced in addiction, and it instantly was a reminder of where I came from.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
see, the 4 stories that we just shared, our first reaction was what?
Tell somebody.
Tell somebody.
Tell
Addiction
somebody.
cannot live in the light.
No, all secrets and challenging behaviors die in the light of exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, come right out some recovery literature. I didn't write that.
So Crystal says she went to Sam's Club last month for coffee. She was on cloud 9, not aisle 9. And the
Cloud
van
9.
got hit with the liquor aisle.
Does it sound like Jimmy Kimmel?
She
was on cloud 9.
It triggered
Not
me
aisle
so
9.
bad I ended up with a buggy full of crap I didn't need and left with no coffee. It came out of nowhere. Well, I'm glad you left with crap you didn't need and no
clean.
liquor
Yeah,
and clean.
Glad you left clean.
Did you go back and get coffee?
Hey, one time I was blowing on my coffee, the steam coming off, and it reminded me of cooking dope and made my stomach turn. My jaw started watering. It reminded me of gassing dope off.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I grew up in Arkansas, and there was a time in Arkansas when everybody, listen, from the early 90s to 2010, if you lived in Arkansas, you were manufacturing methamphetamine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just instantly reminded me of cooking dope.
In clean labs.
Oh, yeah. Flask, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a good show, man.
It has. So this brings me up too when you're talking about the coffee thing. Over the course of when time passes, new things come out, right? So over the course of my sobriety, vaping was introduced. I never vaped. I quit smoking in 2009, and so vapes came much later than that. But I can remember, walking around when they first, you walk through different clouds all over the place, and I'm like, man, I wonder what it would be like to puff on that.
Stupid.
Well, I got into this.
He want to smoke a cloud. Chris Dickie.
Vaping was super popular, and they have vaping contests.
Yeah.
For biggest clouds.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they tripped me out with that vape, man. Hey, listen.
Wait. I mean, you've got some Tutti Frutti. You've got
Billy Bubblegum.
all these different flavors.
Willy Wonka.
I got into this routine that every time I saw someone vaping, I asked them what flavor they have. And one time, someone actually said Marlboro Light, and I'm like, why would you?
Shut up.
I promise you.
Listen, you can't believe stuff. Chris makes stuff up sometimes on this show. I know he does.
Why would you want to taste?
Why would
when you
anybody
could have
tell you that if they really had that?
When you could have Bubba Bubble Gum. What did you say?
Bubble Butt. Bubble Butt. I'm not
When you
messing
could
with
have
Chris
that
Dickie.
flavor, why would you get Marlboro?
That's what I'm saying. Nobody. That's not a
someone
real
was.
story, Chris.
It is a real story.
Man. Shit. Let's talk
You
about
look it
Sherry
up.
Stevens. Go look up Chris's story.
Now my story is okay. Let's have our researchers out there.
Fact checkers.
Is Marlboro Light a real flavor on a vape?
Okay, yeah, somebody go look that up. Hey, Sherry Stevens says, I still have using dreams and always wake up in a panic mode until I realize it was a dream. So I got some experience with that. I have spent years researching using dreams.
Yeah.
And I've come up with a solid conclusion. Means one simple thing. You're asleep. That's what it means. If you're dreaming of getting high, you're asleep. That's all it means.
Yep.
I dream I could fly. I ain't going to jump off a building. I've even dreamed I was bank robbing and woke up without the police behind me. Right?
Wait till you have recovery dreams.
Oh, yeah, when you wake up sober.
No. Like in the dream, someone's telling you to get your butt to a meeting.
Oh, yeah, that's when you know you're surrounded in an atmosphere of positivity. Yeah, that's good.
When you start.
Yeah.
But I've had very vivid dreams where I've woke up and I'm on my way to a meeting telling them, getting ready to say I relapse, return to use.
My wife has bad dreams every night.
Sometimes they take a minute to shake off.
Yeah.
But what is the solution we've talked about today? Call somebody.
Call somebody.
We're not in this alone.
I've had dreams so bad about using that I woke up and felt guilty, like I lost my clean time.
Yeah. Yeah, get ready.
Looking around for the paraphernalia, like, oh my gosh.
Hey, you wake up depressed. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I can't believe I
Stomach
did that.
turning, like
Yeah.
I've really used
Yeah.
in my dream.
Yeah.
You know?
Crazy how powerful
But
those can be.
it's just a brain being a brain. That's what brains do. They think nonstop, and you can't turn them off. The closest thing we can do to that is meditation. You know.
Yeah.
Well, man, I'm good. You good? Been a good show.
Y'all good?
Y'all good? Ricky, we good?
Hey, like and share our page, please.
Invite your friends.
Invite your friends,
Go,
and then
go check out the community and invite all your friends.
And then go register for the Prescription Drug Summit.
Yeah.
Say that 5 times fast.
Go register. No.
Description.
Prescription. That's all.
All right.
Prescription.
You guys have a great rest of the day. We will be with you again next Wednesday at 11. We've got a great guest.
Yeah. Who's our guest?
We've got a great one.
Is it Bonnie?
Bonnie.
Bonnie Scribbling.
Scribbles.
Bonnie Scribbles.
Bonnie Scribblesticks.
Hey, Bonnie's got a fire story.
She
was
does.
the second peer.
She's in here, I think.
She was the second peer to ever be hired by the state. She led the development of peer support in the youth facilities, DYS, and now she's going after a master's. Probably coming after me. She's going to get her education. And
We're going to have to talk about that, Bonnie,
Yeah,
next
man,
week.
more.
Thank you so much.
Love you guys.
Love you.